right. Hey, good evening, Rattler Nation. I'm Bryan Fulford, live on location. That's Kelvin Rozier in his home studio. And it's always good to be on with you tonight. And I know some might say it's a dark day, there's some dark times, but as Kelvin always reminds me and us, we are Rattlers and we will get through it. Kelvin, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing pretty good. My spirits are well, and you know what we knew would happen has happened, but this is just the beginning of this is one battle in the beginning, and there's a series of battles to be fought, and I'm looking forward to that. And one thing about it, you can give people titles, but that does not make them leaders. That does not mean people will follow. That does not mean that they will stay. So I know that we'll get a lot more into some of the day's news, and I'm really excited about the guests that we have who will come on the show today.
Yeah, a little I think it's sort of appropriate. We're in the middle of summer, and it's such a big day for Florida A&M University that we've got two very special guests. Both of them hail as alums of Florida FAMU High.
FAMU High.
So the High. Chuck Hobbs and Mataki Akbar are going to join us to really give us a great perspective and some interesting thoughts on really. I don't know if Kelvin, if today is sort of I dare not call it the culmination, but let's just say it's the close of chapter 1 in this saga, in which, as our title appropriately says, the Rattler Empire strikes back. That is what's going to have to happen as we get ready to go into the next chapter, which, of course, if you've been busy today and maybe you didn't hear the news today, the Florida Board of Governors confirmed Marva Johnson as FAMU's 13th president, ignoring many public outcries that have been taking place for quite some time in this process. So I think Chuck Hobbs, he writes a post called the Hobbs. Is it the Hobbservation?
Yes.
I remember it first as the Hobbs Report, but I think it's sort of transitioned to the Hobbservation point. And Mataki Akbar, who is one of the lawyers who filed a very interesting lawsuit, which came out on Monday, I believe. So we'll get a chance to talk to both of those gentlemen. And, for those of you who are a little less politically savvy, I think this will be a good conversation for us to have.
Yeah.
And again, when we do these things, Kelvin, I always like to think about trying to figure out where we go from here, because I think that's what a lot of people want to know. What's this process going to look like going forward, and how should alums and Rattler Nation be prepared and ready to move forward? So I think that's what I hope our conversation and our time with those two gentlemen yields. And so before we get into talking about the main news of the day, we got to get back to giving some shout outs and some love to everybody.
Yeah.
We didn't get a chance to do that last week. And I know that's a part of a staple of our show. And we always like to thank those of you who are watching and listening, and those, especially the folks who jump in, and those of you who come in and be members of our YouTube page, like HBCU Band Talk. who just became a member of the Jericho Broadcast Network's YouTube page at MyJBN Online. And so anybody can go be a member, and your donation helps support the Black College Sports Network, which we are a part of, and Jericho Broadcast Networks is our parent company. Hit the thumbs up and the like button. Everybody, you may be watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, whether it be on the MyJBN Online YouTube page, the ONG StrikeZone YouTube page, those watching on X, Twitter, as I prefer to call it, and no Instagram Live tonight. I don't know if some of the bugs have been worked out, but we are on so many places. So we want to thank you all for tuning in and joining however and wherever you're watching us. So let's do some roll call, Kelvin. Let's kind of.
Hey, before you start roll call, let me do two things. Yeah. One, I got to shout out the high, because we had our all class be out day this weekend.
I love that, by the way. I'm glad you talked. I wanted to talk about that because I love that. I love that.
Yeah. It was beautiful, man. We had classes as far back as I think the 70s. I don't know if we had anybody from the 60s. And classes as young as 2010s. So it was a diverse group, but the bulk of the classes were like from the 80s and 90s and 2000s. But man, it was a great time. People traveled from far and wide, and man, it was the first annual, and it was lovely. Got to see one of the guests there. And
it was the first annual. That's the first time they've done that.
Yeah. So we we had. I saw. I see one person at least that's in here that was there, and so anyway, man, that was a lovely thing. And then the other thing I wanted to say before you get started, man, is can I order some jalapeno poppers and some jerk chicken wings?
Yeah, might have a special reward if you can figure out where I am recording this show. We might, I don't know, Kelvin might have gave it away, but if you can figure out where I'm recording this show from, might have a little gift for you. The next time we actually have a gift to give, you'll be the first one to get it. How about that? So there we go. No, I'm not a big fan of jalapeno poppers. So, sorry.
Love spicy.
I love spicy. All right. Let's get to the roll call here as Rattler Nation has joined in. Of course, you can always support the show by joining. You can also hit the Cash App down there. You can also donate as well. Yeah. All right. Jimmy Mack, first one in the building. In the words of Captain Binghamton, I could just scream. Yeah, Jimmy. I'm sure a lot of Rattlers feel the same way. Ashton Harris checking in.
P. Cola.
Good to see you, Ashton. Thank you for checking in. Many echo your thoughts and concerns, Ashton. So you are not alone. You're not alone. Marcus checking in from Middle Georgia. Thank you for being a JBN subscriber, Marcus. Appreciate you, babe. Meredith checking in.
Hey, Meredith.
Gail checking in. Good to see you.
What's happening, Gail?
Thank you for being a JBN subscriber as well. Meredith, also a JBN subscriber. I appreciate that. Must have been on another YouTube page. Checked in. Dwayne Sweet, JBN subscriber. Sweet? Thank you for checking in. Mary 305. Another
hey,
JBN subscriber.
Auntie.
Good to see you, Mary. DQ, good to see you. Thank you for checking in.
What up, DQ? Drew.
Good to see you, Drew. Almost had to give you a call, Drew. Almost. I was worried if this location didn't work, you were about to get called to the bullpen like in the last minute there. Good to see you, Theron. Appreciate your support through your HBCU Man Talk page. So I'll put it on the screen. You know I don't say it, but I love y'all the same.
I hope everything works out with y'all president's search as y'all go through y'all process better than ours.
Yeah. I don't know, some of the same jokers though are on the. Well, anyway, let's not go there. But we just keep y'all lifted in prayer. That's all we can do. Alice McCullough 561 in the house. Good to see you, little baby.
What's up, little baby?
Thank you for checking in. Tony, good to see you, brother. Checking in. Melissa Wilson, back to back, checking in. Exactly. Can't echo that any louder. Mr. Campbell checking in.
What's up, Coach?
Yeah. I tell you, man, the irony of that is, good to see you, Road Dog. Checking
What's up,
in.
Mike?
Good to see you as well. Ezekiel Love, thank you for coming in, checking in.
What's up, Zeke?
Chuck Hunt.
Nashville, Tennessee.
Checking in. Nashville's finest via Monroe, Louisiana. Good to see you, Chuck. Thank you for checking in. Who gave her a standing ovation? Who did that? Who did that, Zeke? Really? I thought people had their backs turned.
I know Rattler Nation gave us a standing back ovation.
I mean, they had a back. Who gave? I'd love to know who gave the standing ovation.
The Board of Governors is who I think he's referencing.
Rightful. Just, wow. Kerry Daniels checking in from Duval County. B. Starks, thank you for being a JBN subscriber, Bryan. Appreciate you. That's good to hear, Sermon. Thank you, man. We appreciate you checking the show out.
Appreciate you, Sermon.
Thank you. Checking in from H-Town, Tracy Haynes, Taurus Haynes. Now, Tracy, are you all right, Tracy? All right, checking in from H-Town.
What up, Tracy?
Well, see, we would have been in trouble. I don't know what would have happened. I've been on the side of the road trying to run this show. If not where I am. Hey, Area, thank you for checking in.
Hey, Area.
Let's see. Zeke said it was the Board of Governors.
Yeah.
Nasty work. The headline news right here from the Tallahassee Democrat, Tara Jean, says, quote, opening paragraph, it's official. Marva Johnson has been confirmed as Florida A&M University's 13th president after a contentious process that concluded with an outcome foreseen by many. Continuing the trend of having politicians and individuals with strong political ties as university presidents, Johnson's confirmation completes a new loop of Governor Ron DeSantis' plan for a massive conservative takeover and remaking of Florida's higher education system. FAMU, of course, is the only state public HBCU, now has officially seen a new leader fall in line with the anti-woke agenda. It also comes as another win for the governor. The quote from Johnson says, quote, I'm committed to leading this university to forging new paths for excellence and preeminence and to protect and advance FAMU's legacy. That's what she said during the Florida Board of Governors meeting today. She was confirmed with the unanimous vote, followed by a mixture of claps during the standing ovation and shouts of disapproval from FAMU stakeholders as the board convened today at FAU, Florida Atlantic University. One final quote here, Kelvin. She says, under my leadership, I don't expect FAMU to just survive. I expect it to thrive. Kelvin, your thoughts.
She's underqualified. And we always have said this about FAMU in general, but specifically if you look at how many ADs we've had over the last 20 years since this structure of a board of trustees, right? Since the Humphreys days. If you look at how many presidents, CFOs, ADs, top administrations, the constant turnover. And one thing that we always have been consistent about is FAMU is not a place where you learn on the job. because there's a lot of hard decisions and difficult decisions. And to even try to maneuver those successfully requires an expertise in in higher education administration. And even with that, it's still a very delicate and challenging position to try to maneuver through. So this thing will end just as it started, contentious, and it will not be successful. I mean, it's not on solid foundation. So it's not hard to predict where this thing is going to go because she can't lead when she is not the choice of students, of faculty, of alumni. I mean, when the vote took place, you know, everybody in the audience who were constituents of FAMU stood up with their back to the board of governors and her. That is the environment she got to come in as a first time higher education higher education administrator. See, the thing is, she's not going to have to deal, with those folks who voted her in, and the political structure. Her challenges, she's got to deal with the people she's there to help serve as a leader, and that is a tall, tall task. And then on top of that, there's so many important things that she won't have any clue about, frankly. So who is she going to listen to that has expertise that can help her maneuver? She's never been responsible for an athletic department, of housing, of admissions. I mean, it's just so many things that require experience and know-how that she just simply would not have. And if you listen to her interviews, if you kind of followed her responses, all the little shallow things she said thus far, I mean, at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. The rubber meets the road. She's going to have to be on campus. She's got to deal with leadership teams, and whoever comes in, leaves. She's got to get. She's starting at the beginning of a new calendar year, academic year, fall, with all these students and move in, and she's supposed to, unless something changed, she's supposed to start August 1st. Man, her head is going to be spinning left and right. I mean, what's going to happen? What's going to happen when she has to do the first convocation, president's convocation, or the Rattler charge? I mean,
oh my God!
I'm just saying, man, it's not going to be good.
Here's what I'm interested to hear as we talk with our guests later. This process, of course, politically charged. We know where it comes from, but now that it's done, it has happened. We know that right now her official start date is August 1st, correct? There's no more debates or issues regarding the contract. We understand we can point out all the ironies of her contract versus others. But let me come from this a couple different angles, because this is what I'm curious about: how we move forward, and will our displeasure and vocal objection of her, should we be worried about how that will be received on a larger scale by the same potential businesses and sponsors that we're going to now? I mean, we got to assume she was brought in to help get some money that supposedly we haven't been getting, right?
No, we don't. You don't assume what has the best the best indication of the present performance or future performance is past performance. There's nothing in her background that says she can fundraise and gonna bring anything to the table financially. So no, I'm not gonna assume that. She's gonna have to show me that.
Okay. So then I guess what I'm wanting to know from you all in the chat, you all who are watching, even you, Kelvin, how are we going to respond when we do interact? Because now she is our leader, whether we like it or not. She is the head Rattler in charge. How do we?
She has a title.
Well, okay, has a title.
It's no buts to that. What I'm getting at, anybody you coach sports team, right?
Yes.
And have for many years. I coached at one time too. I've been a part of the military, and I have a story that I tell a lot of times about that experience and how our company or platoon leaders got chosen by our senior company commander or our platoon sergeant, and how through that experience he came to me, a lifelong helicopter pilot, but it was his first time being a company commander, and it was his first company, and he just chose the leaders of the company before they even arrived by looking at test scores, right, ASVAB scores, right. And so this particular company that he had was largely diverse. It was the most diverse company out of about 12 of them. Had a lot of diversity, and essentially the company didn't follow who he had chosen by those scores as the leader. They followed someone else, and I'm not going to tell you who that someone else is, but I would tell you that this company commander at the end of this period, he came and he said, I learned the lesson. This group taught me something, and I asked him what that lesson that he learned. What was it? Again, this is senior chief, 20 years in the military, and he said, what I realize is you can appoint people to titles, but that ain't who they gonna follow. Leadership is kind of organic, and people tend to gravitate to those who they feel like have their interests at heart, who can be successful and help them to be successful, who have critical thinking skills. It's a science to this thing, but ultimately the group or the people choose the leaders, not necessarily the decision makers. They choose the people with the title, but that don't mean that they got the influence.
So then that's I'm glad you said that. I'm curious to see who she goes to and because at some point she has to create the allies and create the relationships that she does not have right now. Anybody who would come into a situation, any of us here, if you come into a new situation, whether it's a new team, or a new job, and you're the outsider, you have to, in order to be effective, you're going to have to make good connections and connect with the right people. We've even said that about our athletic department, have we not?
Absolutely.
we've had athletic directors who were outsiders, and we've seen when they haven't utilized and connected with the right people, we've seen how that has gone for them, and we've seen the opposite when they have connected. We've seen that it went pretty well. So one of the questions that I have is, who should she be connecting with? Because obviously we understand right now that there are the negative approval and the negativity that is surrounding her. But if we hold her to her quotes, then at some point we're going to look to see who she connects with, and whether it be her going to people, or will there be Rattlers that go to her? and say, I can be of assistance to you. I can help you. And I don't know if that part may seem self-serving, but at some point that has to happen one way or the other, does it not?
One important word to what you're trying to get at. You have to develop trust in any relationship.
So how would she do that? I'm glad you said that, developing trust. How would she do that? How could she do that?
Not through words, through actions. You have to not only seek out people and include and especially your critics. Not only do you have to seek out people, but you also have to hire people with qualifications and skills that have nothing to do with how you got here, right? You can't build trust and solely bring in people who have a philosophy that's opposite of what FAMU is about. I don't think she can do it, but you ask how do you build that trust? Well, that's how you build trust. You reach out to those who, even the ones who didn't, well, in this case, just about all the constituencies who weren't for you. You reach out and you try to do shared governance, right? Try to get input from them. You hire quality people, some of who may be on the opposite end of you philosophically, but they have a skill set. They have the ear of the people. They can serve you well. People trust them. They're not going to trust her for a long while. But she got to surround people around her that people can trust. And that's being on work. There ain't nothing she can say to do that. She has to put in the work.
All right. Appreciate everybody's comments here in the chats. Keep them going. I want to get us into our first break so that we can get our guest in. I know we've got one of our guests in the green room. Hopefully we'll have the other. Coming up on the other side of the break, we will have Chuck Hobbs of the Observation Point, and Mataki Akbar will be joining us here on the other side. And so we'll get a chance to talk to one, or at least one, maybe both of those gentlemen on the other side. You guys hang tight with us. Appreciate you hitting the thumbs up and the like button, however and wherever you are watching the show. And when we come back in just a second, we're going to talk to Chuck and Mataki right on the other side. You're watching the ONG Strike Zone right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
There's a shot. To the right. It could be. Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you, guys, for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
This is Bryan Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
football fans. HBCU football is back in the ATL with the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Kickoff. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC, Southern Eagles, Jaguars, the Marching Sound Machine, the Human Jukebox. The kickoff trophy is up for grabs, and bragging rights are on the line. The rivalry is real. Bring the family and join us pre-game for the fun-filled Coca-Cola fan experience, including band jamborees, food, activations, and fellowship. For tickets and information, visit MEACSWACchallenge.com.
All right, welcome back to the ONG Strike Zone. I'm Bryan Fulford on location outside of the home. Kelvin Rozier from his home studio. Just taking a look at the last couple of questions in the chat. We'll kind of put a star next to a couple of questions here. Little Baby with a question, interesting. EA with a question regarding the contract details, which we'll get into in a minute. But let's get ready to bring in our first guest to the show. We bring in none other than Mr. Chuck Hobbs to join the show. Brother
Good evening.
Hobbs, how are you doing tonight?
Good evening. Can y'all hear me all right?
Hear you loud and clear, Chuck.
All right, for sure, man. Let's get it started. It's good to see you, brothers. I was just making sure that the link was posted on my Facebook page, so my friends and followers can follow along and listen to us and take it from there. But how y'all doing this evening?
We're doing well. We're doing well. Of course, Chuck Hobbs, if you have not had a chance to check out the Observation Point, you're missing out on a great blog. I remember when it was the Hobbs Report. That's when I first started checking it out. I enjoyed it. Of course, a little bio here on Chuck, a former trial lawyer and award-winning freelance writer. He's a Tallahassee native. He earned his BA in history from Morehouse College in 94, an MA with a concentration in history from FAMU in 95, and in 98 earned a JD from the University of Florida. But as Kelvin mentioned, first and foremost, you are a graduate of DeHi.
Let me tell you what's funny about that. I saw Kelvin this past weekend at the Be Out Day that we had all classes type reunion. And I was reminding Kelvin used to play trombone. I don't know if he told y'all, but he was a great trombone player. And I was a percussionist. And probably one of the worst whippings I ever got in my life happened when I was in 7th grade and Kelvin was in 9th by our old band director, Mr. Gibson. And what I'll tell you is that let me tell you what that whipping did for me. If you can live to tell after you get whipped in full band practice in front of 55, 60 of your peers from grade 7 through 12th grade. And I remember when I came out of Mr. Gibson's office and looked to the right, and people had tears coming down their eyes because tears either from they were scared that they might be next or like, wow, I can't believe my boy Chuck or Chucky just got dogged out like that. I was able to do that and still maintain a sense of pride in myself. Nobody dogged me out. I mean, they joked about it, but I could take the jokes, and that's what propelled me for the rest of my life. I'm like, if I can live to get beat in front of the whole FAMU High band and live to tell about it, I can go and talk anywhere in the United States of America about anything and have no shame. So again,
and we're talking a literal BTA. That's what we're literally talking.
Old school, man. And again, that's part of the problem. I'm sounding like an old man now, but that's part of the problem these days. One of the reasons gentlemen and ladies like us are doing so well is because we got beatings. We didn't get time out. We didn't get talking to and punishment and all of that. You got whooped, and you got whipped at school. You got whipped at home. And all of that's gone by the wayside now, and that's why we've got a lot of kids who are struggling out here. But we can talk about that another time. But definitely it had an impact on me, and it's always fun to see the folks I grew up with who remember that but ain't holding it against me. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Oh, okay, there we go. I was as we just get into a little bit of background and people who may not be familiar. give a little bit about your journey coming from Tallahassee to Morehouse, and then coming back home, and just some of your journeys into where it has you right now.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be glad to. So essentially, a lot of people ask me, like, why didn't you go to FAMU undergrad? And it was something that I definitely thought about. But having grown up in Tallahassee and up on the hill, I wanted to try something different. And so FAMU was in my top 5 choices, no doubt. All of my choices were HBCUs. I applied to Morehouse, Howard, Hampton, Tuskegee, and FAMU. Actually 6, because I also applied to Southern University as well. Because, again, I was into band. I was a musician. And so there was a part of me that always liked the jukebox. Second to the March 100, of course. But I liked the jukebox, too. And in my senior year of high school, I'll never forget, my cousin Rolanda Hobbs, actually, she had just played as AKA over at Southern. And they stopped through during spring break, early spring break. And she had about 20 of her sorors with her, and they all were beautiful. And I was like, okay, well, let me do this. Let me get me an application to Southern, too, just in case. And so I submitted that. I already liked the jukebox. But no, ultimately, really, it came down to Morehouse and Howard. And ultimately, I decided Morehouse because it was closer to Tallahassee. And I knew that I'd be able to get home. But more importantly, we had a lot of guys that we grew up with in Tallahassee that were at Morehouse. Kelvin's classmates, Dano Dees, who's one of my godbrothers, Lawrence Humphreys, they were already up there. A guy that went to Lincoln High School named Mike Sims, and one of my best friends, Kenny Tate, from Florida High. They were already up there at Morehouse. So it was a good opportunity for me to see something different, but also had the homeboys there that were there to look out for me when I first got there until I was able to branch out. And there was a bunch of us from Tallahassee that went up the year I went up. It was about 5 of us that went up to join the guys that were already there. So for a small town, we had a good little group of Tallahasseans, 904 boys. I mean, it's 850 now, but we used to call ourselves the 904 boys back then because we were all from Tallahassee. And so what happened here in terms of me going to FAMU for graduate school and the UF Law, I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I was coming out of undergrad. And I always tell my younger relatives, my own daughter now who's going to 11th grade, and my mentees, like, it's okay to not know what you want to do when you're a teenager. Explore it all. Try different things. And I always liked history. I was a history major at Morehouse. And I was not 100% certain whether I wanted to go the PhD route and become a history professor or whether I wanted to go to law school. I was really confused. So I came home and attended FAMU. And one of the other reasons I came to FAMU is because I was a quiz bowl player. And back then, you could play in undergrad, but you could also play as a graduate transfer for 1 year. My mom was a longtime coach of the FAMU quiz bowl team. So I wanted to come and play for her, right? And so when I got here, I had 2 choices coming out of graduate school at FAMU. I had an opportunity to go and pursue a PhD at Purdue University in history. And I had an opportunity to a bunch of law school acceptances, but I had a good package set up for me at the University of Florida. And what ultimately made me go to UF is that back in 1995, y'all will remember what the big deal was that year. It was O.J. Simpson's trial. And just like most of us, I watched a lot of O.J.'s trial, or I watched the highlights when I would get home from work or classes. And I was mesmerized, man, by Johnny Cochran. And in my head, I was like, I want to do what he's doing. So I ultimately decided to go to law school.
Did we lose him, or is that me? Did he freeze up, or is that? Oh, there he is. Okay,
here we go. And what have you. So I've had 3 distinct kind of careers that kind of intersected: law, education, and writing. And another point about that is my writing career started at Morehouse, writing for the Maroon Tiger. But my first professional job as a writer was given by none other than the great Professor Roosevelt Wilson. And I know y'all know Vaughn Wilson. I know that he comes on with y'all from time to time. His dad was extremely instrumental in me becoming an op-ed writer, not just locally, but nationally as well. And I've told Vaughn this before. I was so honored to be asked to be one of the pallbearers at his father's funeral, because his father is one of the greatest mentors that I ever had. And so that's one of the blessings of having grown up in Tallahassee, grown up on the FAMU High campus. We were around lots of people. I also know y'all were close with Kofi Hemingway. Kofi Hemingway's daddy was one of the reasons that I was considering going to Purdue. He was one of the ones that was pushing that when I was in graduate school. So it all kind of comes full circle. And now I'm here in Tallahassee, still writing, not practicing law right now, but still writing, still educating. I've taught in middle schools and what have you. I do civics. I teach online, you name it. It's all about trying to make sure that our culture, our history, our politics, all of those things are taught, because we got a problem with that in this country. There are so many people who lack knowledge. And so I try to do my part to impart as much knowledge as I can. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Kelvin.
So, Chuck, I told you Saturday that I was really proud of all the things you're doing and the information you're putting out there, because there's a void of people who stand on business and put, unapologetically put things that are positive or things that are impacting our community. And so now we have this whole presidential, at this point, it really was a presidential appointment, and approval at this point. So I just want you to talk about this process, your take on it, and where do we go from here?
Absolutely, man. I'd be glad to. So I am a part, as many of us are, and you two might be too, because there's thousands of us. I'm a part of the Keepers of the Flame group, to a great extent. Many of us some folks had decided to stay in the shadows, but like Kelvin B just said, I ain't never been in the shadows type of dude. I am a member of the Keepers of the Flame. And so with that, what happened is another older FAMU high brother of ours is the person who actually first sounded the call, and that's Bill Proctor, old FAMU high quarterback from the 1970s. Commissioner Proctor, longtime commissioner, his district also encompasses Florida A&M University. I hadn't even really been paying attention that closely to what was going on with the presidential search until I read comments from Proctor, because I always pay attention to what it is he's saying and what he's doing. And when he indicated in April that it looked as if there was some type of dirty dealing shenanigans that were going on with the process, that's when I started to pay more careful attention. Got on the phone with Kelvin's classmate, Lawrence Humphreys, one night. We talked, rapped about what was going on. And then we realized that there were all sorts of FAMU alums that were already meeting and had been watching for months. And so I had to get up to speed. And there were a lot of people who got me up to speed really quickly in terms of understanding the play. And when I say understanding the play, essentially, if y'all had a chance to take a look at the lawsuit that was filed on I think it was on Monday or Monday, by attorneys Mataki Akbar and Enos Jacobs. When you take a look at that lawsuit and what they're alleging there, essentially it shows that as far back as last October, that the idea that Marva Johnson would be the president was already formulated in the head of Vice Chair Devin Gibbons. He made some comments in board meetings in October and December and January about the type of candidate that he thought would be the successful candidate. And what has been problematic from what I have read and ascertained over the last 2 months, working with the Keepers of the Flame, is that there would have been nothing wrong with them putting in the qualifications that the successful candidate could be a person that doesn't come from traditional academic background, but brings lobbying or fundraising or political experience to the table that would be important for helping to propel the university forward. That's what they could have done, but they didn't. They settled on and voted on 3 hard criteria, which are: you have to have a terminal degree. Number 2, that you have to have experience as a faculty or administrator at a research university. And then number 3, that you have to have experience with NCAA Division I compliance. So those are your criteria. She meets none of the last 2, and that's what's been really problematic to me over the last 2 months, listening to Vice Chair Devin Gibbons and several others trying to cape for her, saying like, well, she brings all these other things to the table. I'm like, well, that's true, maybe, but that's not what you all agreed on. So if you've got these 3 criteria and she's lacking on 2 of the 3, then how does she make it from the body of 60 people to the final 4? Then, according to the lawsuit, there was an incident that took place where you all know that about 3 years ago, Governor DeSantis signed a law that essentially took presidential searches out of the sunshine. So prior to 2022, if there was a vacancy, all of the names would be known once the call for applications was closed. They would have listed all 60. It would have been in the Tallahassee Democrat and other newspapers, and we would have been able to watch and see the process whittle down. But around 2022, Governor DeSantis decided that he wanted to take it out of the sunshine in the Florida legislature. And their reason was that they felt that if it was a quiet process, that they would attract better candidates, because they were saying that what you see is that candidates from the top universities don't want their bosses knowing that they're actually applying for positions at another school, which makes logical sense. But here's the problem in this issue is if you put it in secret, and if the law says that only the trustees and the members of the search committee are supposed to know who the 60 candidates are, well, there's an allegation that in March, about 2 weeks before the final 4 was listed, Governor DeSantis had a meeting with a group of Black legislators in the state of Florida and was asking them during that meeting, hey, can you all get behind Marva Johnson as the president of Florida A&M? So that leaves the question is, how did he know that? If this was all supposed to be done in secret, if the fix wasn't already on. And so that's a problem. Then the other problem that comes down is the fact that, again, she didn't meet 2 of the 3 qualifications. You all had an opportunity to read the resumes of the other final 3 candidates, Gerald Hector, our homeboy Ronnie Allen, and also Dr. Donald Palm. Those men had resumes or curriculum vitas with 10, 15, 30, 40 pages worth of accomplishments. Marva Johnson's resume was a page and a half. And at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, when you're weighing those 3 finalists just on paper versus hers, how? That's the question that you have to ask. And then on top of all of that, and I'll end with this, I really went into her interview trying to give her the benefit of the doubt because I saw the play. And all of us who grew up in Tallahassee on the Hill and many other FAMUans who came to school and learned the histories from the Ted Hemingways and the James Etons and the Larry Riverses and all those great Barbara Cotton, all the history professors who taught for decades on end, what we know is that before we were born, the FAMU Law School, the original FAMU Law School, closed its doors in April and it got defunded. And it opened up the following semester, the Florida State University Law School, with books that were still stamped the FAMU Law School, okay? So when you stop and realize that that type of history is still right there in our face, and when you have a Board of Governors member like Alan Levine, who was on record a year or so ago talking about he doesn't like some of the test scores that's coming out of FAMU law, and why don't we consider moving FAMU law over to the University of Central Florida? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that the same problems that existed when our parents were young are still there right now if we're not careful. And so with that, that's why so many thousands of us galvanized and came together to say, okay, why are you here? If you're not qualified objectively for the position, but everybody, the only thing they've got good to say is, oh, she's my friend. She's my colleague. She's a good person. I heard all of that today. Every person that vouched for her for the Board of Governors, none of them talked about her record because they couldn't. Her record is porous, but they talked about, I like her. She's a good person. She's going to be a good fit. And what that tells me is she's a person that can be controlled, a person that they want in that position so that they can do exactly what they want to do here at Florida A&M University.
Amen.
Yeah. Oh, and one last thing. I really did go in with an open mind. I'm not a closed-minded type of person. I really wanted her to do well in the interviews. Not that I wanted her to be president, but I wanted to be made a liar. I wanted Commissioner Proctor to be a liar. I wanted all of us to be like, okay, we over exaggerated with this. And then she did terribly during the interviews, all three. And I was there for all three. I said, no, actually 3 of the 4. She had 4 interviews that day. I sat through 3 of them. The only one I missed was because it was lunchtime. I missed the one that she had with the faculty, but I saw the one that she had with the Board of Trustees, the one with the students, and then the community one. And she struggled. I mean, softball questions like, what is the purpose of FAMU DRS? She didn't even know what FAMU High was about. I was like, so how are you going to lead a school and what have you when the trustee is asking you a softball question about what are we going to do about DRS? And you're over here talking about mentoring programs and getting students with different businesses. And I'm like, she doesn't understand that DRS isn't some DEI. That's Developmental Research School, also known as FAMU High. I'm like, she doesn't even know. She doesn't even know the school that she's supposed to want to lead. And like I was talking to my mom about it, I said, what it realized when I got home and got on the phone, I was like, to me, it seems as if she didn't prepare because she didn't have to. In her mind, she knew I'm Gucci. I don't have to do any of this type of stuff because the vote's going to be for me anyway. So with that, I'll hush. Sometimes I get a little long-winded. I grew up in the Baptist church. Another one of Kelvin B's classmates, Daddy was my preacher at New Salem Missionary Baptist Church, Quentin Hubbard. His father, rest in peace, the late Reverend Arthur C. Hubbard, baptized me back in 1981. So our ties all run deep, man. They do.
Okay, so Chuck, given that background, I totally agree. She didn't come prepared because she knew it was already fixed, and she didn't have to. It didn't matter how she performed. She was gonna get this 5-year contract with this crazy amount of money that we got to find funding for. But what I want you to speak to, as you speak to that part too, but so what is the status of the lawsuit? What does that process look like now?
Absolutely. Okay, so the suit has 2 main parts to it. It has some subparts to it, but the main thing, what the lawyers are asking for on behalf of the alumni and students, all of us who are keepers of the flame, who are plaintiffs, whether you're named plaintiffs or not, what the lawyers are seeking for the Second Judicial Circuit Court to do is to pierce beneath the veil of the process. It's asked for 2 things. Number 1, for an independent investigator to be appointed for the purposes of determining whether all of this dirty dealing was going on that's been alleged. So we're talking about the text messaging that was going on during meetings from Board of Governors to sitting trustees, trying to tell them, hey, don't shed any light on the conversation about these names being leaked to the press and what have you. That's one issue that it's dealing with. Also, the issue about Governor DeSantis and this meeting with legislators and what have you, when no one was supposed to know who the finalists were going to be, let alone getting any questions about could you all get around this particular candidate. So that's number 1. If that is proved to be founded, if there's a hearing granted and that is proved to be founded after an investigative process and what have you, there are a number of remedies that the court could have, from direct civil and or potential criminal sanctions, depending on the statute of different trustees who may be involved with that, but also the prayerful request, which is, hey, we want to stop the succession here and let's get this whole thing started back over again. So that is still at this point a distinct possibility. I won't get into the probabilities or anything like that, because one thing that you learn after practicing law for any period of time, you can never tell what's going to happen in the judicial system. There have been cases where I walked out of there thinking, wow, I can't believe I won that. And then there have been cases where I thought I had a pat hand and I lost. So you never know which way it's going to go, but that's what's trying to happen. The second part, and this is critical because not only does it affect Florida A&M, but it affects New College of Florida and every other school in the state university system. If y'all saw last Friday, what they did is they tried to sneak a provision into the state budget to allow for FAMU to pay Marva Johnson that high salary that Kelvin was just talking about out of state funds. And what we know is that there's a cap under Florida law. No college president in Florida is supposed to get beyond 200,000. There's been some reports about 250. No, the statute is actually $200,000 is the cap on presidential salaries. Everything that's in excess of that has to be paid by a third-party type of group. That's called a direct service organization. So in this instance, it would be the Florida A&M University Foundation. And as we know, over the last couple of weeks, the foundation has said straight out, we're not sure we've got the funds to pay that high of a salary to a president. And so for whatever reason, the Board of Trustees was trying to push this through as quickly as they could. And they also tried to push through her salary request. Initially, she was asking for about $750 per year. They were going to settle on about $650, but the foundation was still like, we don't have it. At least we don't think we have it. So let's just press pause to give us an opportunity to do a feasibility study so that we can figure out what it is we can afford to put on it, so to speak, on a salary for her if she's the successful candidate. But they didn't want to do that. They pushed that on through. And so with that, the lawsuit is asking for the court to take a look at that particular provision of state law and to find whether or not, it was economically feasible for Marva Johnson to be able to sign the contract that she signed. And in sub issue under that is whether or not Florida law even allows for a Board of Trustees also to be able to dictate what it is that one of those third-party direct service organizations have to pay. So that's a very, very, very interesting issue that's going to be worth watching as well, either here or down at New College of Florida, because they're having the same problem down there where the Board of Trustees is trying to force its direct service organization to pay money that should be earmarked for students and programs to pay Richard Corcoran, who is the former Speaker of the House and also a Ron DeSantis crony. So with that in mind, that's where we're going with the lawsuit. And again, I'm one of the unnamed plaintiffs, but again, everybody that's a donor, stakeholder, member, the Keeper of the Flames, we're all pretty much in lockstep with regards to trying to see this action through and see what ultimately comes out of it.
Let me ask a question. One of the things that always comes to mind for me, we're seeing how political our state is, and even at the national level. Because one of the things I've said and thought is that we have our complaints and issues with what we see, but when one party controls so many of the even if you have a problem and you want to go appeal it, guess who controls that? Well, you want to take it to a higher level within the state, guess who controls that? Let me go to the national level. They control that too. I don't know if a judge has been appointed yet in this particular case, Chuck, but how do you respond to people who, like me, who have my thoughts? And I said, if you didn't believe in the conspiracies and conspiracy theories prior to what we've seen play out in this selection search, believe. So to someone like myself or someone else who may also kind of see those ties, how do you respond? What are your thoughts? I mean, you're as a trained lawyer, trained to believe that, in equality and that justice is blind and things of that nature, right? How do we rationalize the ability to have a fair say when? I'll leave it at that because I don't want to just ramble. I'm gonna get out the way.
No, you're not rambling at all, and you're raising questions that are first and foremost on my mind. So I want to start by saying that at the end of every trial in Florida, you have the jury instructions. If any of you have ever served on a jury, you know that once the cases are closed and the lawyers have finished their closing arguments, that there's this long set of instructions that the judge will read, right? And at the conclusion of those instructions, and I've seen it, I've handled some cases where the instructions are almost 100 pages long, depending on how many charges or issues are before the jury. But at the very end, the last paragraph, every judge in every case in Florida reads language that goes to the effect of this: for over 200 years, we have agreed to a constitution and to follow a law. And every time I have ever heard that last couple of sentences, for a few seconds, I allow my mind to wonder what happens when we no longer agree, right? And that's something that we don't like to think about. And we're seeing it play out not just here in Florida, but even up in Washington, D.C., where President Trump is being told X by the courts, and he still goes and does Y. And because he's like, I'm going to ignore the courts. Well, the same thing holds true here in Florida, and it's problematic, and it's something that we have to consider. So let me back up a little bit. The judge who got assigned yesterday is Judge John Cooper. He's a longtime Leon County Circuit judge. I appeared in front of him many times. Before he was a judge, he was a trial lawyer who handled lots of personal injury, wrongful death, civil types of claims. But he is easily one of the brightest judges that I've ever appeared in front of. He's one of those who he's well-read. He comes prepared. He's going to understand everything that you're going to say before you actually say it. So if a hearing actually takes place sometime soon here, the lawyers, who once they've had an opportunity to provide whatever briefs and case law they want to have, Cooper's going to come in ready and prepared to ask all of the right questions, and he's going to make a decision based upon the law. And that's a high compliment that I'm giving him, because that's not every judge. I'm just going to be honest with you. Some of them are not prepared. I even had a case once where when we got called up to sidebar, I looked over and could tell that this particular judge was on Amazon ordering something while the trial was going on, right? And so I kind of chuckled on my way back to the seat, and I was like, wow, now this judge is supposed to be listening in for evidentiary objections and all that type of stuff, but the Amazon order sheet was up on the laptop. But digressing, the point is that's not Cooper. Cooper's one of those guys who's going to be dialed in. He's going to be ready to go. And I think that you couldn't have asked for a better jurist on this particular case. Now, having said all of that, the faith in the system, it's tough, because we are living in a bizarre era right now where, and I keep telling everybody this, it's not that Marva Johnson is a Republican that gives me heartburn. Right. It's that the Republican Party now isn't what the Republican Party was even 10 years ago, right, let alone 20 years ago. There may have been things you disagreed with on Republicans 10, 20 years ago, but I never thought I'd see the day when somebody would look at me and tell me, I don't have to follow that law. I don't have to do what that judge says to do. And that's where we are right now. And so that makes me somewhat pessimistic. But again, the faith part of me kicks in. It's like, well, hope springs eternal, and we've got to keep our trust in God, because he's, obviously we're dealing with spiritual wickedness in high places. And so we've got to stay vigilant, but we also have to stay prayerful in this situation, because we just don't know. And at the end of the day, one of the worst things that's happened in our state, when we were coming up, Florida was predominantly a Democratic enclave. It was a blue state, reliably blue state. In fact, I believe that President Obama won the state twice in the presidential race. I know Bill Clinton took Florida, but it's only recently turned hardcore red. And to a great extent, y'all, I have to blame us, we the people, not black people necessarily, but I'm saying Democrats and independents who allowed, through apathy, for Republicans to slowly but surely gain a foothold and get more people elected and more people elected and more people elected, until now it is to the point where, with gerrymandering and things like that, it's almost impossible to get a Democrat elected. Like, for instance, here in North Florida, Corey Simon, a Republican, is our state senator. For years, that was a Democratic seat and a Democratic safe seat. Like, the Democratic candidate would have 70% of the vote. The Republican might have 30. But with gerrymandering, after the 2020 census, that whole district flipped. And now what was once a blue safe seat is ruby red, to the point where whoever the Republican is going to get 70% of the vote to 20-30 for the Democrat. It's maybe 40 on a good day. So with that in mind, we've got to do a better job of staying on top of the issues. We've got to know who's running. And I ain't just talking about for governor or president, but that's every race, school board, county, city commission, water district, whatever it is, we have to be able to know who the candidates are, know what the issues are, and we've got to vote. I mean, how many people do we know? I mean, even family members, people we love who are like, oh man, my vote don't count. Oh man, it don't really matter. And in reality, it actually does. 1 turns to 5, 5 turns to 10. And if we can get the turnout better, we'll have better selections when it comes to people in office. And I mean, we almost had a Democratic governor. Andrew Gillum was this close to winning that election back in 2018. And when I started to see some of the turnout sheets, what really will always break my heart for the rest of my life is that in that same race, Bill Nelson was running, and Bill Nelson in certain districts, the Democrat running for senator, got more votes down in Broward, Dade, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach County, reliably Democratic enclaves, than Andrew Gillum did. And you have to stop and ask yourself, now what would have compelled somebody to vote blue for Bill Nelson, but not vote for Andrew Gillum? And again, if those 13,000 people had voted for Andrew Gillum, man, we're not dealing with this right now, because he would have been appointing all of the Board of Trustee members and Board of Governors. So elections have consequences. And unfortunately, we are in the cut getting a Mr. Gibson type whipping like I got back in 7th grade collectively when it comes to the results of us being apathetic and not being watchers on the wall and taking care of business at the ballot box.
Is there a chance you kind of I don't know if I heard it correctly. Is there a chance that this may not go before that judge?
No, I'm glad you're sharp. Let me tell you what I mean. Let me clarify a little bit better on that. So what happens in these types of cases, a judge could issue a ruling without a hearing. He could take a look at it, allow the other side, once they're served, to respond. Once he's read both responses, he could say, hey, we want to set this for a hearing on XYZ date, or he could make a ruling based upon the pleadings, which means I've read you all's complaint. I've read what the other side has said. Let me see what's going to happen. And so that's part of the slowdown process that's going on here, and I don't know which way he's going to go. If I had to bet, I think at minimum there will be a preliminary hearing on this matter once the defense has its opportunity to respond, because they'll be served with process, or they have been served with process, and then they have 20 some odd days. If you've ever been in a lawsuit, you've got 20 days to respond and what have you. So we should know something here in a couple of weeks as to how that's going to roll and what have you. But I don't want people to think that this is going to be a trial of the century type thing right off, because we don't know. There's a lot of things we've asked for, but it's up to Judge Cooper to decide how he wants procedurally to handle the matter. So I'll be glad to come back on in a couple of weeks once this gets a little bit clearer and be able to give some, of my thoughts in terms of where I think things might be going.
Appreciate that insight. Kelvin, let me go to this question here from our good friend of the program, Rick Kinsey, who asked, do we know if a BOG member was on the selection committee for UF, FIU, and West Florida?
Very good question, Brother Kinsey. Good evening to you. Very good Rattler, brother. I don't definitively know the answers to that. So I'm one of those people that if I don't conclusively know something, I'm not going to speak to it. So that's an excellent question, but I'm not 100% sure. What I am sure of is that BOG member Alan Levine was on the FAMU presidential search committee. And with that, it raises the issue that you see raised in the lawsuit, which is there's an inherent conflict of interest, because the Board of Governors even wrote a letter saying that, hey, we need to investigate some of these allegations that there have been leaks and some things that have been inappropriate. So that's the fox guarding the hen house. If you've got a Board of Governors member that's on the inside, and then he's also, when y'all are having separate Board of Trustees meetings, sending out text messages, and that's not innuendo. Those are in the exhibits. These are things that are actually going to be able to easily be proven. When you stop and you look at that, you have to ask yourself about the conflict of interest. And again, whether or not that is part of the process that the attorneys are asking for Judge Cooper to take a look at and make a determination that the process was rigged from the get-go. Looks like we got an answer there too from Ms. Tolson, which the answer is yes. So thank you. Like I say, I'll never speak to something I don't know definitively, but now we've got the answer. Looks like FIU had one as well as UF and UWF.
Okay. It's a good transition, Kelvin, to the question regarding the Board of Governors.
Well,
I'll get out the way and let you ask it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want you to. I don't know the answer to this, so I want to see if you might know about non-disclosure agreements, because I really didn't hear about NDAs in terms of the search process for presidents in the SUS system until this time. So, do you know if that's typical protocol?
Right. It is the new typical protocol, right?
Okay.
Based upon Senate Bill House Bill 520 that got signed into law back in 2022. Now that they have a situation whereby all of the search process is supposed to be in secret, each one of the trustees and search committee members is supposed to sign these non-disclosure agreements saying that they won't leak. And that was the first thing that made Brother Commissioner Proctor, concerned, because he was like, wait a minute, how are all of these names percolating in the media and they haven't even decided who the finalists are going to be? So that means somebody was breaking those NDAs. And that again goes back to the lawsuit that's been filed, which is, Judge, we need you to take a look at this because these names were being disclosed and that runs contrary to what Florida law says is supposed to be happening at this time.
Okay, and then my next question, and I saw that another baby Rattler kind of brought this question up, and there's no way to sidestep it, so we're gonna bring it up. You know, we have a baby Rattler who's on the Board of Governors, and you know, he wasn't around Saturday.
Yeah.
Kind of talk about Bryan Lamb, and you know, because we know what and who he used to be. We know the stock he come from, but things look different now.
It man, no doubt about it. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was with my classmates, a big part when we started talking about this presidential search, that a lot of people had questions about that. A lot of people are disappointed because he's younger than we are, but he came up under the same group of people. The lessons that we learned, he learned. The coaches that we played and learned under, he played and learned under. Mr. Holt, he heard those same stories from Mr. Harry Holt about Jim Crow. And so it's disconcerting, bruh, because, like, generally speaking, those of us who came up there, we understand certain things in terms of, race, the importance of race, racism, white supremacy, and the roles that it has played in our ancestors' lives and still is currently playing. So, Kelvin, I ain't gonna lie, there was a lot of disappointment and what have you from people who are like, I can't believe that he would allow himself to be used in this type of manner. And I had that disappointment too. I mean, it's one of those things where it's, I have not been around him, obviously, in multiple decades. And so, like you said it best. We know who people were, but 10, 20, 30, 40 years removed from an experience with them, who knows, how their lives have been impacted and what impacts their thinking. But what I do know is that when push came to shove, as the chair of the Board of Governors, and that's, not a position he's getting paid for, you would think to yourself that if you're in a non-paid position, he is a high-ranking executive in banking, in finance, and what have you. You would think that he's independent enough to say, "Wait a minute, y'all, this isn't right. What the process isn't right."
Right.
Even if that's the candidate that he thinks is best situated to fundraise and to navigate the MAGA world in regards to being able to make sure that the Florida legislature gives FAMU a better share. I won't say fair share because FAMU has never had a fair share, but a better share. If he felt that she was the best, then he too could have helped pump the brakes and say, well, wait a minute, we need to expand the criteria so that we can make sure that her qualifications fit so that we can, at least make this appear to be proper. But to just go along to get along, and on top of that, to see all of the many thousands, man, there were over 15,000 FAMU alumni and stakeholders who signed that petition or the Keeper of the Flame letter that our group put out. There have been tens of thousands of social media comments. Obviously, Will Packer had a reel that went viral. Roland Martin, all of these people across the country have been covering this. And to know that people have concern with the process,
right,
and to still sit there, and that's what disgusted me today. Right. They were basically making Marva Johnson out to be a Karen, an honorary Karen today. Like she's being treated unfairly. She's being treated so poorly. This is my friend. This is my colleague. I've served on. How dare you all?
Entitled
this way, you know that. And I was sitting there about to lose it, man, because I'm sitting there thinking it's not personal. Nobody hates her. I mean, it's just like when people have tried to say she's had family members or friends who have indicated she feels like there's death threats. You know, Lawrence and I were on campus. Lawrence Humphreys and I ate lunch, rode to campus with our boy Kenny Tate on the day of her interview. Man, when I tell y'all, there were multiple FDLE cars out there, marked, unmarked. She had multiple officers flanking. I'm sitting here thinking, nobody's going to harm you on this campus. And if you've got to have bodyguards and multiple police officers to walk through the campus, maybe this isn't where you're supposed to be.
As someone who doesn't know or has never been to FAMU, that would think that our campus, our community would act like that.
Right. We don't hate you. We just don't want you. One has nothing to do with the other. It's like, we appreciate you coming, thank you, but you're not ready. But nobody's going to harm you. And we're all gentlemen. If I was standing by and somebody tried to attack her, I'd defend her. I mean, nobody's going to let harm come to you. But don't take it personally when folks say, we don't want you, based upon your lack of qualifications and the fact that they want you. And that's what it keeps coming down to. Like, why do the MAGA folks want you? I've heard her surrogate say, oh, she's not MAGA. She's just a member of the party. I'm like, okay, be that as it may, accept that it's true. But why do the MAGAs want you? That's what it all really boils down to in my mind.
Okay, I got another follow-up. Kind of explain to me. So I know that she was on a board under Rich Scott with some of the Board of Trustees members, Gainey, Washington for sure. To me, that seems like a huge conflict and problematic. Speak to any legal ramifications of that relationship, and then the fact that they went around the board chair to negotiate. One of those persons negotiated her contract.
Man, let me tell you something, Kelvin. That is one of that's a very important comment and distinction that you made, because again, at law, we're always taught that you have to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. And I know that Commissioner Proctor was telling me the other day that he is prepared to fire off a whole bunch of ethical complaints, because at the end of the day, some of these people probably should have recused themselves from the vote for the very reason that you are saying, which is, I've got long ties with her. We've been on boards together. We've done this, that, or the third. Those folks should not have been a part of the search process, let alone able to vote. It's just not fair in terms of passing the smell test, so to speak. And I do think that we will see that raised real shortly, because I know that Proctor was talking about that yesterday when I was on the phone with him. Absolutely.
Okay.
The irony of how this same Board of Governors reacted in a historic manner towards the selection of the University of Florida president selection, right? And I go back to hearing comments from alumni, from political leaders within this state who are alums of University of Florida saying, I'm so glad the Board of Governors listened to us. And I laughed, and I was like, well, I hope that same energy is felt today. Obviously it wasn't. But
it was
did the irony of all of that did that hit you as hard in the face as it hit me? And just how did anyone ask that of the board? Was there any? I mean, how does the board even? Soak that in. I mean, that was a historic move that they made in rejecting a unanimous vote by the University of Florida, their flagship university, right?
No doubt about it.
And now we have our situation and just complete opposite.
Man, it's crazy when you stop and think about it. Like the kids say these days, it's crazy work, because at the end of the day, Santa Ono, if you ever had a chance to look at his resume, just mind-bogglingly clear that he is extremely well qualified. And he even, I don't like that he did this, but knowing that he was about to apply for the job, he even started trying to comply with what the MAGAs want, which is at the University of Michigan, he started saying, okay, we're not going to do DEI. We're going to close this office here. We're going to not adhere to that and what have you. And they still didn't accept him. The same people who rejected Santa Ono, the majority of the same people who rejected Santa Ono, were the ones who unanimously applauded and voted for Marva Johnson today. And so at the end of the day, you have to recognize what's going on. It's ideology over credentials. They want to put people into office that are going to follow the play. And again, it doesn't mean that I have a personal beef with Marva Johnson. I don't know her. And in fact, in the few minutes that I met her outside of the interview, she seemed warm and nice. She really did. All right. But you can be warm and nice and not the best candidate for Florida A&M University. And that's pretty much where we are right now. And so what also is troubling is and I've written a lot about this, Project 2025 is a big part of the problem. And what has happened here, both on a national level and on a state level, the Republican Party has always talked about trying to get rid of the Department of Education and trying to remove as much as they can public funds out of public education to privatize it. It's been a pet project of the Republican Party for at least the last 30 some odd years, where it's like, okay, let's support charter schools, let's support vouchers so that kids whose families might not have money can send their kid out to McClay or North Florida Christian or the like, right? That has been a Republican pet project for a long time. But now it's gone into hyperdrive. They don't just want vouchers. They don't just want charter schools. They want to take, in as much as they can, public money out of these schools, underfund, defund, because they don't believe that the purpose of taxpayer money is to go into the school system. And so when you stop and think about the fact that public schools, the concept of a public school is still a relatively new concept. In the 1890s and the early 1900s is when you started to see public school systems really sprout up all across the country. And part of that was because the child labor laws started to change, where kids couldn't go work all day. Some of you probably have talked to your great-grandparents, if you were blessed to have them, or your great-great-uncles, and you know that many of them didn't go to school. They worked. And there was no truancy offices forcing kids to go to school. That's really only been a little over 100 years since that became the focus, which is, okay, we want every child to get at least K through 12 education. That was not always the case. And so with that, there are some Republican thinkers who believe that the public dollars should have never gone into the school system, that the better way to do that is through churches, private organizations, and the like. And so when you read through Project 2025 and you see that, you recognize that Ron DeSantis and those are basically beholden to the same type of concept. And so with that, if you're going to implement those types of spending cuts from a budget, so to speak, then you've got to have people who are in those presidencies who are not going to buck when you start trying to do the cutting, or when you start trying to eliminate DEI programs or the like. So that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing the hyper politicization of the educational process because they've got an agenda. And again, it does not mean that Marva Johnson might not think it. I think she really does believe that she's going to do it well with Florida A&M University. The problem is that she's naive and that she doesn't understand that this is much bigger than she is. And at the end of the day, they're not going to give her the level of autonomy that can protect the university ultimately, because at the end of the day, all they have to do is defund. Think for a second, like I told y'all about the other example earlier about when the FAMU Law School closed in 1968. It's not that President Gore went along with it or that he was happy about it. He had no control over it. When they said, we aren't putting that in the budget this year, we're putting that in the budget for over at FSU. Y'all no longer have a law school. The same would be true with a President Marva Johnson. She's going to have no control at all over what ultimately gets done if those MAGA Republicans start to say, okay, let's move pharmacy over to FSU. Let's move allied health over to FSU. Let's move nursing over to FSU so that the FSU medical school complex can be as all-encompassing as the University of Florida's. And if you can't see that play, then you're blind, and I can't help you.
Well, and let me just add to that, Chuck. Absolutely, some of those things are feared and talked about in different circles. I also want to do a little inspirational, aspirational type deal, though. In the midst of chaos, there's opportunity.
Yes.
And so there are some things that we can do. One thing that comes to mind is the play that was made on the College of Engineering, which you didn't bring up, right?
Right.
So engineering was supposed to be solely a FAMU program. And they used the whole funding operational dollars over next previous years because the initial seed money was coming from the federal side, I believe. And so, what the state said was, hey, the only way we'll fund the operational budget is that you make FSU a part of the engineering program.
Absolutely.
And so I say that same playbook is something that, FAMU needs to look at in terms of this whole medical thing, especially with the discussion going on with the hospital here and everything. If they want to focus on rural healthcare and so forth, then a joint program that both deals with rural and underserved and underrepresented populations and physicians is an opportunity, I think, right?
I agree with you, brother. I agree. And the other thing is on that's a great point. We have to be forward thinking. All right. Like, so if I've been seeing this a lot on social media, if the lawsuit does not prove successful, and if she is sworn in and starts the job on August 1st, what happens from there? Well, everybody has to make their own decisions on how to support or not support the university. One of the things I have seen consistently is that people are saying they're still going to give, but they want to make sure that they restrict giving so that it goes strictly to students as opposed to being able to pay off salary and perks for the new president. But I would also warn everybody that we've got to wait on that because that's what's going on at New College of Florida right now, where they were tapping restricted giving funds to be able to give Richard Corcoran, their president, more money. So with that in mind, it is a whole mess that we're about to deal with. And a lot of Rattlers right now are dealing with the concept of, well, I love FAMU, so how do I cope if she's the president? And each man and each woman is going to have to make their own decisions on how best to deal with that. One of the things that I have liked is that there are a number of Keeper of the Flames, including a good friend of mine and another Rattler and fellow UF Law grad, Monica Williams-Harris. One of her positions has been that we've got to hold this administration accountable. So if she's ultimately confirmed and she's not pulled out by any lawsuit, if the decisions aren't overturned at some point in time, what Monica Harris has been saying to me when we've been conversing is that what we need to do is have a report card, a scorecard, so to speak, that's based upon the contract that she signed. And so, okay, if y'all swear that she's this great corporate fundraiser, okay, let's show what was raised fiscal year 23, 24, 24, 25. And then let's see what gets done fiscal year 25, 26, or what gets done fiscal year 26, 27, so that we can see whether the things that they say are her strong suits, such as fundraising and politicking, actually yield fruit for Florida A&M University, both from state funding, federal funding, as well as private giving. All right. The other thing that we have to make sure is that we take a look at her contract and make sure that she's kept up to whatever the standards are about other issues with performance, and be that scoring in regards to professional licensing tests, whether it's issues with regards to students being able to matriculate and get out of FAMU within 4, 5, 6 years. Whatever those metrics are that are set in her contract, we need to be able to have us a ledger, call it the Marva watch, where you're sitting up and you're able to determine, okay, they said she'd be able to do this. Well, this is what's actually been done, so that you can continue to put pressure on the powers that be, which are the Board of Trustees as well as the Board of Governors moving forward. And the reason I say that is because there's going to be some turnaround. There's going to be some more governors that are going to be appointed. There are going to be some more trustees appointed, which is why I would be remiss if I didn't note, and that's a good point that Tony Matthews just brought out about student enrollment also. That's another one of those metrics that we can look at to determine, okay, are we having more students? Are we having fewer students? What are the grade point averages and test scores of the students that are coming in? All of those things, if she is ultimately confirmed, those are the things that's going to be on her watch, and we're going to have to hold her to what it is that she said that she can do. If it turns out that none of that happens, if it turns out that after fiscal year 1, only about $50,000 came in, then we need to be raising all the sand that we can in social media, traditional media, and keeping the pressure on. Because one thing we've got going for us is that next year is an election year, all right? And we don't know who the Democrat's going to be yet. I read the other day that Dave Jolly, a former Republican, is thrown in for the Democratic nomination. But what I do know is that it's about to be a whole mess next year in the Republican Party, because Byron Donalds, who is a Black man who attended FAMU for a little bit, I think he graduated from Florida State, but I think he started at FAMU. He's running. He is Donald Trump's pet candidate. And the word on the street is that Casey DeSantis, the governor's wife, is going to run. And we all know that DeSantis and Trump are no longer bros after DeSantis ran against him last year. So it's going to be very interesting to see if even we might be able to get the ear of one or the other of those, because at the end of the day, it is true. We do have to try to leverage in as much as we can, political clout and what have you. And when you have a situation where you've got candidates who are desperate to become the next governor, we've got to be like, okay, well, what's in it for us? And with that, we need some non-ideologically aligned people in as trustees. Never again should it be, okay, you're a MAGA, okay, you've contributed X, okay, all right, you believe in anti-woke, anti-DEI, signed up. No, that shouldn't be what the litmus test is. It should be somebody who's ready to be a great fiduciary for the university to make sure that it runs properly. Those are the type of people we need on the Board of Trustees, not these ideologues who, and again, it was laughable last month. They put the guy Vasquez, who runs all the McDonald's in North Florida, they hired him on a Thursday. He hasn't participated in any of the interviews. He hasn't read any of the resumes, and he voted on Friday for Marva Johnson. Now, if that doesn't tell you that he got on and did what was told, I don't know what else to tell you. And so we've got to get rid of the ideologues that will do whatever it is that Ron DeSantis says or whoever his successor is, and people who will be independent of mind, who are solely focused on the betterment of Florida A&M University.
All right, Chuck, we're going to get you out of here with this last one. Man, first of all, let me say thank you for coming on, man. You are very articulate and well spoken in terms of, the facts and the issues and the legalities, and this is exactly what we need. This is why our platform exists, because we want to speak the truth.
Amen.
To the people. Now what they do with that truth and that knowledge is up to them, but at least they can say they heard it, right?
Yes, sir.
So I want to give you the opportunity first, real quick, to speak on whatever you want to speak on in terms of athletics.
Okay.
Because we already did our part a while back when the story broke on that. And of course, we love and support our sister. But whatever you want to say about athletics, and then after that, just talk about how people can follow you if they want to be a part of the movement, how they can follow you on social media, all that good stuff.
Oh, man, no doubt. Thank you, Kelvin B. Like I say, man, I appreciate being friends and brothers with you for 45 years and counting, man. It's a blessing anytime we can fellowship and anytime we have an opportunity to be around those of us who grew up together back when we were much skinnier, afros and all the rest of that type of stuff, had hair and you name it. But I will say this, when it comes to FAMU athletics, I think that FAMU has the best person in the position to be athletic director that's had in a long time. I still stand behind and support Angela Adams Suggs. And it's not just because we grew up with her. It's because we know her and we know her intellect. We know her passion. We know her vision, and when I look at all of that and when I look at the allegations that are out there, maybe I could come on another time, but I have some real grave concerns about the timing of this. I can tell you that in past experience, anytime these types of instances come up, really the only thing people want done by people, I mean, I've handled situations with FDLE where it's like, okay, look, if we can get the money paid back, we will close the file. And the very fact that that wasn't adhered to in this particular situation is very troubling to me, if you follow where I'm coming from, especially when upwards of 90% of what was owed was already paid back. So my prayers are with her. I pray that she continues to withstand this storm and what have you. Anybody that's ever been in the public eye and had to deal with press on things that aren't comfortable, it ain't fun when it's your turn in the cut. I've been in the cut myself once or twice, so I understand. But at the end of the day, I share with her and everybody else, even the worst Category 5 hurricane eventually runs out of wind and rain, lightning and thunder. So this too shall pass, Angie. And I hope that if she's listening, that she stands firm and that she continues to hold on to her job. And at the end of the day, that this hopefully will get worked out in short order, because this is not a big deal. I saw all sorts of stuff on social media. Oh, she's going to prison. She's not going to no prison. She's not going to no jail. Anytime you're dealing with financial stuff like this, folks really just want the money. And at the end of the day, once that's squared away, she should be okay based upon my past experiences. Now, separately, looking forward very much to this football season that's coming up. I was out there the other day with Big Wally Williams, Hall of Fame member, at the prospect camp. They had a bunch of JUCO and potential walk-ons that were out there. And, I got to watch Coach Colsey and what have you and his staff. And, man, those cats seem locked in and committed. So I'm definitely looking forward to a bounce-back season this year on the heel. And then, of course, one of the best things that Angela Adams did in her short so far tenure, and again, I'm claiming in the Lord's name that she's going to have a longer tenure, but one of the best things she did was hire Charlie Ward. In fact, I was a little surprised Florida State didn't come asking for Charlie Ward. He's a great human being.
Yes.
Was an excellent athlete, and he's a great molder of young men. And so I'm very interested to see how well he does with the basketball team. And, of course, we follow Coach Stoop, baseball. They did well. I was hurt when we dropped that game in the ninth inning to Bethune. But, again, Stoop always has us right there in the thick of things, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. So, man, listen, that's pretty much all I've got. I really thank you, brothers, for allowing me an opportunity to come on and talk with your followers and what have you. You can reach me. You can check me out on Substack.com. It's the Observation Point on Substack. That's where you can find my writings and articles. And I'm always running my mouth and running off at the mouth on Facebook. And that's Chuck Hobbs. I have a backup Facebook page called Chuck Hobbs 2. And that's TOO for when they suspend me for being a little too buck on the main page. And then on the Instagram, I'm at Real Chuck Hobbs. So, man, y'all get at me. And I look forward to, again, coming back on at some point in time and seeing what the end's going to be. So y'all be blessed, okay?
Thank you very much for coming on the show, man. We appreciate it.
Anytime, brother. Anytime. Y'all be good. Talk to y'all soon.
All right. We'll definitely invite you back, too.
All right, man. For sure.
All right.
All right. Take care. All right.
All right. Good stuff. Man, what a great conversation with Chuck Hobbs. appreciate everybody in the chats. Make sure you're following Chuck. Make sure you're checking out the blog as well, the Observation Point, and then of course check him out on Facebook and all those other places. Good stuff. Let's catch up on our break, Kelvin, and then get ready to close out the show. You know, obviously, it's one of those days where the news regarding sports is light.
Yeah,
there is some news, so we'll get to that on the other side of the break. But obviously, our main focus on today's show, because again, our show, while it is athletic centric, we cover Florida A&M culture, and today, the culture of Florida A&M. Some will say it was attacked, and it's time for Rattler Nation to find a way to positively strike back. And so that is the name. No, you're wrong, Mr.
Hooters.
Not at Applebee's. Again, if you can guess where I'm at,
Hooters.
I got a prize. No, I might have been more distracted if I was there, Kelvin. No, but I was locked into the conversation with Chuck. So yes, no, but I'm not at Applebee's. There's no Applebee's even where I'm at. But, all right, so let me go to a break and come back on the other side with a little athletic news before we close out the show. You're watching the ONG Strike Zone right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
Football fans, HBCU football is back in the ATL with the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Kickoff. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC, Southern, Eagles, Jaguars, the Marching Sound Machine, the Human Jukebox. The kickoff trophy is up for grabs, and bragging rights are on the line. The rivalry is real. Bring the family and join us pre-game for the fun-filled Coca-Cola fan experience, including band jamborees, food, activations, and fellowship. For tickets and information, visit MEACSWACchallenge.com.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
You on mute.
I've got it. Welcome back to the ONG Strike Zone. Bryan on location.
Am I right?
Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me see. Let me see. What is what right?
I'm looking at the wood panel, so it gives off barbecue vibe.
All right, let's see. Little baby, no, wrong. That's a shame, Mr. Campbell, Steve. That is a shame. I don't know. My Instagram says no.
The one in Tallahassee is closed.
Bro, how did that one close? That one should.
Well, you know they're going through bankruptcy.
Okay, I was gonna get in trouble, but I'm gonna stop. No. Somebody got it right.
Tony
got it right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, winner, chicken dinner. Tony.
What'd he win?
I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. Wing special on me on the next Wednesday night I see you, Tony. Next time you're in town. Wings on me. That's the best deal they got, right? $11.99 wing special.
Yeah.
No. Missed out on this actually.
I'm more of a shank guy myself.
I'd rather send you some wings though, Tony. Yeah, that's why I said send me the money. Come on now. I know I wish I was on the same number of drinks as my folks across the aisle from me though. They own it, boy, I tell you. They getting after it, boy. I tell you what.
On a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday. I'm like, they ain't gotta go to work tomorrow. Must be nice. Must be nice. All right. So before we close out the show, Kelvin, what's on your mind from a sports perspective? We got a couple of different news stories that we could get to. Which direction you want to go?
Well, let's talk about our associate head basketball coach.
Okay. I like that. Give me just a second, and we can talk about that. Why don't you go ahead and make mention of that?
Well, I'm glad that it's official now and it's been posted. Associate head coach is none other than Gerard Lazarus, who previously was at Florida State on Coach Ham's staff. He also is a graduate of Florida State, but he is, he's been at Middle Tennessee and a couple other programs on his journey. He's done a lot in the camp and AAU space. Also has done some things over there in terms of fostering a relationship with donors and NIL like things. So I mean, it's a big get for us because I know that there's other opportunities. I don't know how long we're gonna be able to keep them. I know there's other opportunities that were out there, but he chose us, and that means a lot. He brings a lot to the table. I'm familiar with Coach. He's a great guy, man. He's gonna fit the culture, and more importantly, he can recruit his tail off, man. We've already made some nice gains. There will probably be others that there may be other things that can't be talked about right now, but I'm just saying the bar is set high, and we're going to see the significance of this hire this basketball season.
I didn't know this. I knew outside of you and my head coach at Orlando Christian Prep, Coach Trek Burke, been a part of all 10 state championships, and having led the team to 5 of the 10, he was an assistant coach on the other 5. I didn't know he had a connection to Coach Jared, and then come to find out 2 other people that I know very close that also have coached with me at OCP, connections to Coach Jared, and they all say the same thing you said. Absolute total respect and admiration for the work ethic, first off, not only, having connected with him at the University of South Florida, even on the AAU circuit. So I know people that know him on all those levels like you. And like you said, having been the director of basketball operations, or DOBO as it's known in the industry, right? And he's been successful in that role. And now here he is taking that one step closer to being the head coach, which we know he will become.
Yep.
He's on that track. So
yes.
Getting him at this stage in his career, big plus for FAMU, whether it's 1 year or 2 years, the impact will hopefully carry forward many more years, and it's a big win.
Yes.
And, it is one of those things that Marcus has always talked about on our show. We are a mid-major, and we are a stepping stone for
launching pad.
That's a better word. Thank you. Instead of stepping stone, launching pad. And the one secure thing we can say is that we know our head coach is not going anywhere.
Right.
So if he continues to surround himself with great people who make their launch onto the next thing from FAMU, I mean, that's a win for us.
Yeah.
And it's a win for him. So I'm excited about, glad we have Coach Jared. And, it's funny. You all know him, and I say me and the three other people that I'm closely connected to know him. I look forward to finally meeting him one day because, like I said, I know him so well, or in basketball terms, through you and other people. So never had the chance, but I'm sure I will out on the circuit sometime soon. So congratulations officially, and welcome to the FAMU, Coach Jared. All right. I saw somebody that Tim said a guard committed today. We had somebody commit today. Hold on, let me go to while we're live here, let me go check to see who that commitment is.
Let me see if it's official.
Yeah. I see golf just announced a transfer from look, I'm not even going to try to I'm not even going to try. Okay. So I think Tim is talking about the convert. Tim, if you're talking about Anthony Knowles, we've known about Anthony Knowles, his commitment. He's from Sagemont Prep. I'm seeing that the official graphics went out, so these guys must have officially signed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the golfer, I'm not even going to try. I'd love to hear Coach Rice try. That's all I'm going to say. I wonder what short name he's got for him. Valaptafon. I don't know. But anyway, he's from Stetson, so we'll see.
And I wonder what that means. I know the kid I know he's going to come in and contribute and be a part of a great team. But does that mean that we lost somebody? Is the question.
Well, remember, Coach didn't. He didn't have any room, and he knew that with the roster limits that it was going to affect some people, right?
Right.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Let me see. All right. So we got about 10 minutes here before my battery on this laptop goes. So I want to make sure we hit a couple things. I'm on remote. The battery only lasts for so long. The HBCU Swingman Classic was announced. And we have a host of, we got 3 Rattlers that were named to be part of this. There you can see the list. As you notice, as you scroll down, let me see on this page, where's he at? Towards the bottom there, Garrett Workman actually made the team. Of course, a freshman pitcher, what was it, Rookie of the Year or Freshman of the Year, I think was the designation by the SWAC that Garrett earned.
Yes.
Okay. And then also, you can see Brody Popple, whichever way you want to call it. I'm going to call him Popple. Mama called him Popple, or at least, Germany calls him Popple. at the stadium, so I'm gonna call him Papa. I don't know. Y'all be calling him Popel at the SWAC. But,
Coach Shoot say he coaches his dad, and the coach don't call him Popel, so I ain't calling him Popel.
Well, you can see that he made this list. I think this is the second year Brody's made it, if I'm not mistaken. I think he made it last year. And then, of course, at the very bottom, freshman Jay Campbell, first team all SWAC, made it as well. Jay Bat, DH and third baseman, and even did a little bit of pitching late in the season. So congratulations to Jay, Brody, and Garrett for being part of the HBCU Swingman Classic. Kelvin, which, by the way, July 11th in Truist Park,
Atlanta.
in Atlanta.
My Braves Stadium.
And All-Star Weekend is in the A. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got to go.
Yeah,
I've got to be in the house.
We will be there, yes. Already working on tickets, working on passes, all of that stuff, man. We got to be there for that. So it's, I think the last 2 times they've been out in like Texas and the West Coast, and finally they're back in the. So that's July 11th. July 11th, which means the All-Star game is probably that's usually a Friday game. So that game is sort of leading into the All-Star weekend.
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's Friday.
So that's usually how that game is played.
Friday at 7 p.m.
Good stuff. All right. Let me see. Quickly, I saw somebody ask in the chats. Alice, I will say this. This is what I can tell you regarding the HBCU settlement. All 12, the news came out via the SWAC. Obviously, the spring SWAC meetings came out earlier. Happened on Monday, I believe. And the SWAC released a statement that all 12 schools in the SWAC are agreeing to opt in to the house settlement, which means that football rosters will not be limited to 63 and can be up to 105. But that does not mean that every school will take advantage of that. And I think if we all look at financial budgets of some of our SWAC brethren, some of them probably financially can't afford to give scholarships outside of the 63 that they're giving. I'd say about a third of them probably can't.
But they still will be a part of the settlement, which means that 200.
Which means they have to come up with the money.
Well, no. What? This is what is going to happen. So 260. I got some notes here. 260K per year will be held from the NCAA distribution that's given to the members by the conference. 260K of that will be withheld to go toward the settlement for the next 10 years.
Yeah. And that's the best. And you know what? That's the best route, because that way I'm not asking you to pay money. It just means you get less of the distribution that would have gone out.
Right.
And you can take advantage of all the other goodies, if you want to call them goodies, that come with being a part of the house settlement. And of course, the statement from FAMU, from AD Suggs last week, we already read that for you. So it was already documented that FAMU was going to be a part of it. I think we were just waiting to see the SWAC. Alice, I'll tell you that if you would go and check on the BCSN Pod Zone, the sports wrap, the show that I do with Drew, myself, AD Drew, we even had Dr. Cavill, who hosts inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We tried to break down and talk about the house settlement on the last 2 shows on the BCSN Pod Zone. You can go catch those shows. I would encourage you to go check that out. We give some not only some history on that comes from Dr. Cavill's angle, but we talk about the house settlement. But I think there's still some bigger questions that have to be asked, and maybe next week we will ask some of those questions, Kelvin, because the how is still going to be interesting to see how schools financially manage to move with the House settlement, and it will be a case of haves and have-nots. You know, schools who are able to financially support student athletes and come up with creative ways are going to be at an advantage, and so I think, Kelvin, it'll be interesting to watch those who are taking advantage of it, how that yields athletic success.
Well, and let me just add, the Florida Board of Governors approved today to allow all the state universities to allocate up to $22.5 million in auxiliary funds annually for the next 3 years to help to cover revenue sharing obligations tied to the NCAA House settlement. So now FAMU, along with all the other SUS universities who have NCAA athletic programs, can use auxiliary dollars to help supplement and to meet that obligation. So that is a win. All the other most of the other states already was there. So this is kind of leveling the playing field for the Florida SUS schools. Mute. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Larry asked about the JUCO event, the football event. Do you want to share anything regarding that?
The only information I can share is that we did end up signing a couple of those guys. I think I know the kid from Fort Valley was a part of that event for that day, the JUCO transfer walk on 2025. So I know he was one kid that got signed out of that, and my understanding there was like at least somewhere between 3 to 5 that were being signed. I can't remember the other kid, but the Fort Valley kid I remember who's from Lakeland was one guy that was signed out of that. So we did get some pieces off of that event. And the number of attendees, I think someone told me it was in upwards of 80 plus. It was a lot more skilled people, of course, than trench people. But that's all the information I have from that event.
I saw Vaughn mention the strength and conditioning coach. You want to mention that for a second as well?
Yeah, we announced that we've got a new strength and conditioning coach who's come to us from Colorado. He was with Dion up at Colorado, and he was with Dion at Jackson State. He's been at the University of Georgia. That's where his career started at. He's very well thought of and respected in the field of strength and conditioning. And we, just like we talked about with Coach Lass, we are extremely fortunate to have him part of the staff. He was with, I believe, the Houston Texans last week with the Minority Institute program that they have with the NFL. But yes, he's back in town. He's officially on campus. He has started. Coach Sims, Maurice Sims.
Maurice Sims, yes.
Yeah. So again, I mean, that is huge. There's a lot of good things, solid hires, credential hires happening in athletics, and we need to just keep that momentum going into the fall, man, and support these coaches, these student athletes, and our administrators in athletics, because I got a feeling we'll be winning the All Sports Trophy in the SWAC this year. I'm putting it in that atmosphere right now.
Nice. I want to take a second to give a shout out to Richard Sermon. Richard, thank you for your donation via Cash App. Any and all of you that want to donate to the show, you can drop a link, drop a cup of coffee or whatever you prefer via Cash App. You can also donate, I think, via Venmo to that same user account as well. Or you could join our YouTube page, the Black College Sports Network, Jericho Broadcast Network's YouTube page, MyJBN Online. So all of our contributors, we appreciate you and thank you for being a part of that.
Yeah, thank you, Edward Moore, for clarifying that. I wasn't sure what Q Sanova was trying to say, but in football, Edward Moore has it absolutely correct. 105 is a hard cap for football, and you don't have to, and I think the conference, even the SWAC conference, has kind of left it up to each institution, if they want to go up to that fund, up to that level. But the 105 members is a hard cap for football under the new agreement, new rules.
All right. Let me see if this will come through. I did want to make a mention, Kelvin. Lastly, nope, it won't. Last week, we were told that the information on the 2025 FAMU Sports Hall of Fame class was going to be revealed the next day. It was. So before we close the show, I just want to make mention of those members of the new class. Let's see, the female student athletes that are going into the 2025 class. Kavandra Curry from women's basketball. Amber Fullwood, softball. Rachel Pye, women's tennis. And E. Lillian Spencer, women's tennis. Male student athlete inductees. Wayne Barber representing men's basketball. Jomo Cousins, football. Carlos Odom, football. And Philip Sylvester, football. Our coaching inductees, Coach Willie Booker, coach men's basketball, and Coach Jorge Olaves for swimming. The contributor and supporter inductees, Ray Moore, a financial contributor. Maurice Pickett, a financial contributor. Jacqueline Perkins, athletic supporter. Michael Smith, athletic supporter. And Van Wilson, an athletic supporter. I want to encourage you to go to FAMUathletics.com. You can read a great summary, whether maybe you missed it, or I know there was also an article that Vaughn released on the TallahasseeDemocrat.com on those. And maybe between now and that induction ceremony, which is going to be, has the date been announced? Usually it's one of the home football games. So I don't know which hall. I know Vaughn was in the chats earlier. Do we know the date of the Hall of Fame yet? Maybe next week we'll know. But we'll try to work and see if we can get some of these Hall of Fame inductees on the show so that we can get a chance to meet them. And yeah.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'll try to get the
there we go.
Chair.
September 26th. There he is, September 26th.
Okay, and I'll try to get the chair on the show to talk about
that
too.
And when we do that, you know what, we need to make sure we get pictures. So Vaughn, I'm gonna ask you now, any pictures that you can give us, we'd appreciate it. So that way we can show people some visuals of these fine Rattlers when we get ready to talk to them and the director, of course. The director, of course, of the Sports Hall of Fame is Marvin Green. He's the chairman of the FAMU Sports Hall of Fame. So we had Marvin on last year. Great conversation talking about the class of 2024 and look forward to it. Thank you. Vaughn dropped some other nuggets. The FAMU night with the Rays, August 22nd in Tampa, and Amber Fullwood throwing out the first. Well, look at that. All right. I hope August 22nd is a weekend, Vaughn. Is that a weekend? Look, I can go check, but I just thought I'd throw that out.
Yeah, it's because it's the
like Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, it's the week before the OBC. Yeah.
Yes.
OBC is August 30th.
30th. So it would be a
Friday.
A Friday. I'm gonna be in Atlanta for the MEAC SWAC probably, but I think I missed it last year because of it. Okay, well there it is. All right. Well, Kelvin, we got to get ready to go. My battery's about to go dead on this laptop.
Okay.
Give you final thoughts, Kelvin. Any final thoughts on the show tonight?
No, I just want to thank Chuck Hobbs for coming through and giving some great insight to all the things going on with the lawsuit and perspective on what's happening with the presidential search and some of those problematic situations. And I just want to encourage Rattler Nation. We have to continue to fight. We have to be strategic. We have to make sure we come together and hold this leadership accountable. So we got work to do. Let's put in the work. Let's not be discouraged. Let's be encouraged.
Well said, Kelvin. Please make sure to hit the thumbs up and the like button wherever and however you watch the show. Your support really helps us continue to impress upon the algorithm that this is a quality show that covers Florida A&M University Athletics and culture right here on the Black College Sports Network. I encourage you to go check out the BCSN Pod Zone. The podcast version of this show is always available on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Every week, every night, the show, you can catch the show, download, rate, review, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. There you go. All right. Marcus Green will hopefully be joining us sometime soon. He's on assignment, but he's always with us in spirit, and you can make sure to follow him on Twitter as well. @Decatur_G is where you can find him. Kelvin, as we close, are my Pacers, do you believe, like I believe, that the Pacers will win in 7? Do you believe, Kelvin? Do you believe?
No.
That's going to do it for tonight's show. I'm going to mute you. Mute. Pacers in 7. By the time we come back next week, I guarantee you will see me wearing a World Championship T-shirt next Wednesday right here on the ONG Strikes.
All right. I'm rooting for you because I ain't got a dog in the fight.
You ain't got a dog in the fight. I got a T-shirt for you, though, if we win, though.
Okay. All right.
All right. Hey, thank you for watching, everybody. You guys have a great night. Be safe. Be proud Rattlers. Be strong Rattlers. And continue to strike, and strike again. Peace out, everybody.